This one has sat on my docket for months in a few forms. I wanted to exclusively talk about the best game of last year, and I posted highlights of my favorite game of last year in a lot of short form videos. So now I finally want to get my thoughts for those two games out in the public of why they are great, why I like them, who will like them, and why there are some detractors. I juggled with ideas of what video to do for UFO 50. I knew I was going to cover it in some sort of way on the channel, I just didn't know what. There's 100 videos ranking their favorite games on UFO 50. There's others analyzing the inner workings of each of those games. My first draft of this video was revealing what my 10 most played games were, and why they stayed in rotation. With it releasing on the Switch this week, it seems like the ideal time to talk about it for those who don't know about it. I want to give reasons why UFO 50 is essential and why it stands above the rest of the 2024 releases. For starters, UFO 50 provides emotional feelings that are difficult to replicate and maybe I am a bit nostalgic for. With it being a compilation, it's like when you go to a friend's house as a kid and see all of their video games in cartridges. It was a little different nowadays where games are primarily sold digitally. While some people kept their cartridges in boxes you bought them in, I didn't keep the boxes. I can guarantee that I am not alone in that. The carts were sturdy and big enough that you could store them without extra protection. Seeing your friend's physical collection, you're so excited to try them all. You pop in a cart that you're familiar with from reading about it in a magazine subscription that you have. You play it for about 10 to 20 minutes, but it bounces off of you. Your friend tells you that they love that game, but they are willing to move on to another. They want you to try more of their games. So you pick another. It is a much better fit for your taste. Both you and your buddy are so focused. So focused, you don't realize that it is an hour past when you're supposed to go home. Your friend reveals that it isn't the best one they have, and they cannot wait to show you more. When you start trying each of the UFO 50 games for the first time, that is a very similar emotional feeling you get. The idea of this comes after watching two separate rankings for the entirety of UFO 50. The lists were two completely different lists. Even my own opinion differed from their conclusions on games. That is the thing about UFO 50. The developers had to know that every gamer has different tastes in games. Some players grew up in arcades, so they have a soft spot for short session games with high score lists. Younger gamers may have never taken a step into an arcade, but they have put 200 hours into Metal Gear Solid 5 or Baldur's Gate 3. That is the point, and why I say it is essential to try or buy for yourself. There are gems in there, but there are no definitive ones. They will be different for every single player. The library of games presents itself chronologically when you launch the game, meaning that which games came out in the order of that the fictional company UFOsoft published the games. You see when they up their technology, read inspirations of fictional developers, and even see that there are sequels and recurring characters that happen throughout the games. UFO 50 doesn't have tutorials like modern game releases would. When I was streaming it, I would boot up a new cartridge and immediately exit the game so I would read the controls. I was playing Caramel, avoiding all the enemy bullets without shooting any of my own. After 5 minutes and accidentally hitting a button, I started firing my own. I hadn't read the manual, so I had no idea. This very much replicates the exploration of retro games. Like other 80s games, if you sit at the title screen of a UFO 50 cart, it will start playing the game and maybe show use for a particular move that you hadn't thought of. If I hadn't been impatient with Caramel, I wouldn't have been defenseless for my first play. And the obvious thing to discuss is the sheer amount of content you get. We aren't talking about 50 mini-games here. These are 50 full-blown games. Each game has 3 types of completion: a trophy, a strawberry, and garden gifts. Think of trophies as beating the game, and strawberry as 100%ing a game. Plus, you get gifts for a virtual pig garden for completing odd tasks in each of the carts. As of recording, I have 8 trophies, 17 garden gifts, and no strawberries, and that is with 50 hours into the game. This is a game you can give to someone and they can play without needing another game. It is both retro and modern, single and multiplayer. The only thing missing is 3D visuals, and you wouldn't expect that from video games of the 80s. UFO 50 is a masterpiece. and one that will be looked at for generations for its ambition and successful execution. You can get it now for Switch, PC, and it has a physical edition coming out in a few weeks. And now to my favorite game of 2024, Rivals of Aether 2. It is a sequel to a platform fighter that looked at Smash Bros. 64 in a pre-sequel sense. There were no platforms, shields, or grabs for the original game. The sequel has all of those things and introduced new ideas for the genre in general. There are special moves when you're knocked down or on the ledge that are exclusive to each other instead of using get-up attacks or ledge attacks. While it's a sequel to Rivals of Aether, it feels like a sequel to Smash Melee. Not in a literal sense, but feels. The Smash series left a whole lot of what it brought to the table to the wayside. Wave dashing, dash dancing, wave shines. Rivals 2 has those, but the game doesn't stop with the inspirations of Smash and Melee. It has dash attack cancel up smash from Brawl, it has the zoom in for KOs from Ultimate, and it brings back some of the advanced tech from the first Rivals like hip falling. So far, the included characters are from the Aether universe. Characters from the first game, the main character from the Dungeon Crawler spin-off, and the main villain from the series are playable characters. Some feel like evolutions from Smash characters. Zetterburn feels like a Spacey, Rano like Sheik, Clarin like Marth, Loxodon like PMDDD, Fleet in some ways like Peach. But some characters feel totally unique from Smash. The only comparison I have that are closest to Crag, Orcane, and Raster, appropriately, are themselves in the original game. The game itself is a single payment for the game. You can spend extra tokens for skins, colors, and other extras, but you can also earn in-game currency through playing. I've earned skins without spending any extra money. New content you can get is also added at least once per month, and the skins are great. Characters even have new lines that they use during the game and during the victory screen. One of my favorites is the Pizza Chef Loxodon that throws meatballs and uses a pizza spatula that says, "You don't deserve pizza" on the victory screen. It has live service aspects like you come to expect from things like Fortnite, but instead of being free and paying for things like battle passes, you pay for the game upfront, get things given to you for playing, and can choose to spend to get cosmetics. There are no payments required for new characters that get added. On top of adding new customization every month, new characters are being added once a quarter. We've already seen 3 characters added since release, characters coming back from the first game. They are free to own to owners of the game. More are to be added with the roster of the first game expected, minus the guest characters like Shovel Knight. Lorena won the contest that the developers ran to add a character in the game using the workshop from Rivals 1 like they did with Pame, Malo, Olympia, and Hodan. Plus at EVO this year, the next character was announced, Galvin. He's a totally new character to the Rivals of Aether universe that relies on lore from the spin-off title Dungeons of Aether. He has aspects like Bowser, but adds some new mechanisms to platform finders that no other characters had. This leads into the fact that the developers are listening to players in the community. The suggestion board isn't just a place to talk into the void. Developers are responding, and in some cases, adjusting what they hear. This isn't common in a fighting game. They are actively patching the game to find a good balance. We just had a patch where Zetterburn was nerfed that targets problematic parts of his gameplay. A lot of time they may nerf a character but buff other parts of their character, and they may revert things back if they don't like how it adjusts. They nerfed Norcane's neutral air because it was too central to his gameplay. And in a recent patch, they nerfed parts of Raster's moveset, but they altered his movement speed to provide him more of an air identity. I posted on the suggestion boards about more content for casual players, and they let me know it's planned hours later. That filled me with joy to get the response. For me personally, I spent a lot of time with a good number of characters, all of them feeling unique to each other. Early on, I did not understand how to play Fleet well, but in recent weeks, it all clicked. It took time to find a balance of zoning and aggression. A common critique to the game on reviews is on the balance. I have two things to say about that. First, the developers are actively communicating, hearing what the problems are, seeing tournament results, and patching the game regularly. They know when characters are problematic. They see when characters struggle and are trying to find ways to improve them. The game is alive, and that the game has been and will be modified for the best playing experience. The second thing is actually understanding imbalance. 3 of the most imbalanced games in fighting game history are still being played competitively. As I mentioned before, Melee is still having tournaments to this day. Last year, Street Fighter Third Strike was played at EVO, and this year, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was. Of those games, 50%, 48%, and 27% of their rosters are tournament viable. Yes, they have character specialists that make runs with characters that aren't viable for tournaments, but when it comes to being competitive, there are a select few of those casts that fit the bill. And just this summer, Rivals of Aether 2 was at EVO. Of the top 8 competitors, 10 of the current 13 characters were played. That's pretty balanced if you go off the results. All this to say, the game is great and only getting better post-release. It saddens me to see that people are review bombing it for links to the publisher, and that comes with anything. So I have to recognize that my opinion has to be independent of public backlash, and that's why it is my favorite game of last year.